Hey guys, how are you? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Lady T. Thank you so much for taking the time out to watch this video that's right this second. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Now, if this is your first time to my channel and you kind of like peeked around and thought, oh, I like what she's doing, she's cool, I like her vibe, then you know what? Hit the subscribe button. Yeah, anyways, on this episode I get to speak to a pastor, a senior pastor, and he goes by the name of Pastor Peter Nembhard of the Ark Church in London, United Kingdom, and he's actually a coronavirus survivor. It's a global pandemic and it's no respect of anybody, so whatever race, whatever wealth class that you're in, somebody will be affected. And also my condolences to you if you have lost someone close to you that you know that has had the virus, but ultimately if they survived, we thank God for their lives. Pastor Peter went through coronavirus, and let's just say that when you're used to encouraging others, what then happens when you are the one that needs encouraging and you're literally at death's door? Well, find out what happened to him and his story, and I pray that you are encouraged and blessed by it. Pastor Peter, how are you?
I'm good. I'm getting there one day at a time, slowly, but I'm getting there.
So
just happy to be alive this year.
I can imagine. So on a scale of like 1 to 10, whereabouts are you on that scale?
Like 6, 7.
Okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So, you know, we thank God for you. So, my guess is Pastor.
Well, I think I'm being generous there, actually. Probably generous. I can't remember anything like that. So.
Well, my guess is Pastor Peter Nembhard. He is the senior pastor of the Ark Church in London, in the UK, and he is a survivor of the coronavirus. Let's take it right back to when this all started. When did you have a feeling that something was wrong? And, you know, had you been in contact with people, or do you know how you contracted it?
I have a suspicion how I contracted it. The suspicion is one morning, this is back early March, I believe. I got up about 5:30 to go for a prayer walk, and I opened my front door, and this man was passing, and he had the most horrible cough, like just this, you know, that cough that they're describing.
Yeah.
He coughing, but I opened my front door as he was passing, and I walked straight into this, and I had no time to shut the door. This is like I walked into it. But I remember it so vividly, like in my head, in my mind. And I just remember as he was going up the road thinking, oh my gosh, I hope nothing, you know. But I don't know. I've not been around anyone that has been coughing or.
Yeah.
So I don't know. If it's not that, I have no idea where else I picked it up from. Obviously, I traveled a week before that to Barbados. So could have been on the airplane. I don't know. But yeah, I just know I think it started in the night, just the
that
fevers.
That quickly, the same day.
No.
So how?
No.
So from when?
From that time that happened.
Yeah.
I'm not sure when that happened. Say that if that happened this week, the following week I went to Barbados for 5 days.
Okay.
I came back from Barbados, and then I had a week, and then it kind of kicked in.
So about 2 weeks from when.
About 2 weeks later.
From when it all happened. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So then, when you started, so what was the first thing that started happening, and, you know, how did you know something was wrong?
I think it was really the main thing was the fevers, you know, like I just had some wicked fevers. I mean, there was one night in particular where Karis, she had to change me 4 times. I was literally drenched, like my top was drenched, the bed was drenched. Like,
Wow.
so that, I think, I had coughs, but I wouldn't think that was really bad. It wasn't really like a really horrible, unbearable cough, but I think the fever was what had me. That had me for about 3 nights.
3 nights.
No, for about a week. For about a week, I was there at home
Wow.
until it was just really, kind of really, oh yeah. And then, sorry, from the fever, then the breathlessness started. And I think it was then it was the breathlessness that made me now think. A couple of friends were on my case. I need to go hospital. I need to go hospital. But I thought like I was dealing with the fever at here,
Yeah.
at home.
Yeah.
I was dealing with the little cough, but then the breathlessness started. And then I had two pastor friends who was like, "You need to go hospital. You need to go hospital." One of my friends, Ricky Otto, was like, "You go to hospital, man. Yeah, I'm playing with these things." I think because he had lost a friend of it.
Right.
So he was like, two friends in Birmingham he had lost to it. So he was like, "Oh my, no, you don't play with this. Yeah, you go. So I called in my children and my wife and said to them, "Look, I've been here fighting it. I could stay here fighting it with you guys, or I can go into hospital. If I go into hospital, I'm not gonna be with you all. I'm good. And
Wow.
yeah, I'm just not gonna see you. You're not gonna be
Yeah.
able to visit me. So I could stay here and fight, or I can
Go to the hospital and get the right
go
help
to
that you needed.
hospital. Yeah, but you're not gonna see me, and I don't know what's gonna happen in there." Blah, blah.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to. I think the reason why I didn't want to go in the hospital is because I thought, you know what, the COVID's in the hospitals. I just didn't want to go in there because
Yeah.
I wasn't, even with the fever and everything, I didn't think I had COVID.
Really?
Yeah.
Had you not read the symptoms? Like, okay, so if you have it,
I didn't
and
think it
then
was like Corona. Like,
was that more of a pride or ego thing? Like a man, like, nah, I'm okay. Like it's just,
probably just denial. But I wasn't like what I'm saying is like I wasn't at home saying like sick. I've got Corona. That just didn't enter into my head or thinking. So like when we were discussing hospital, my mindset was like, I don't want to go in there and contract it. Like, more, do you know what I mean? Like more than, yeah, I had it, but I didn't know. So my daughter, well, no one was giving me a real clear answer. And then my daughter said, "You know what, my mobile phone, if I'd have took it to get fixed when it first started to give me problems, like I could have got it fixed, but then I didn't. And now it's unfixable, So she's like, if the
wow.
longer you wait here, the worse
Yeah.
it's going to become. And based on that, she just picked up her phone and phoned the ambulance. The ambulance came and my blood pressure was out. My temperature was rocketed. And they said, "No, you got to go into the hospital."
Wow. So would you class yourself as generally a fit person? Like, you're healthy, you take care of yourself, you get the right exercise, you eat the right foods, possibly,
No, I wouldn't. I try to, but I try to be as healthy as I can, and I could try a little bit harder, but I have inherited heart issues. So I had a heart attack in February. I was in hospital in February this year. So, and sick, I don't know, for 14 years ago I had a heart attack. So I've got heart issues. Apart from that, I'm okay. Like I'm, I can do sports, I can go, etc. But obviously leading up February, when I went into hospital for the heart issues, it was with breathlessness. So yeah, that's the reason why I went in, and then they said I've had some mild heart attacks, so I had to have stents put in, arteries, etc. So I had some surgery in February. So in answer to your question, based on those things, my heart, apart from that, other than that, I think I'm pretty healthy.
Pretty good. Pretty all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
So when you
Before I
were
had my first heart attack, I was like playing sports with the youth. I was like playing football with them. And then bam, that week, I think Sunday we were playing football. That week I had a heart attack. So since then, I've kind of always made me a bit, you know what, I thought outwardly I was fit and strong and blah, blah, blah. But then I didn't know what was going on the inside.
inside, yeah. Okay. So
Mm,
you know, when your daughter called the ambulance and you're on your
yeah.
way to the hospital, what was going through your mind at the time? You know,
I don't
you're
want to
in
go
the
in there
ambulance,
and
you
I don't
know.
want to go to the hospital and get corona.
Pastor Peter, why?
Yeah, I was just thinking when I get in there, how do I protect myself from contracting corona? You know, that was my mind. Yeah, yeah, I think that's what I was thinking. But then I was also thinking, man, I'm they're not going to be able to visit me. I'm not sure when I'm going to see these guys again. Do you know what I mean? Like, so all those kind of thoughts as well. Like, when I'm not going to see them again for a while if I'm in there for any time. So,
And how was your
but
wife
when
at the time? How was your wife? Like, what was going through her mind? Was she kind of calm? And your kids, were they calm as well? Or were they kind of like a little bit panicked, fearful, like, oh no,
the
why?
most calmest person. This whole episode has taught me something about this woman that, yeah, I mean, we've been married for 31 years, but this episode she is so calm. She takes it in her stride. I think my kids were very worried,
Yeah.
but they were putting on their faces.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
The
So,
younger ones didn't talk very much.
I, wow, I can imagine. So when you got to the hospital, what then happened? What did they start to do to you?
They put me straight onto what they called grade 3 corona ward. That's like desperate cases,
Oh,
and they gave me blood tests, gave me corona tests, which I think was a day or two later they came back and said that test didn't work or something. I can't remember, said they lost the test or it didn't work, but had to give me another one. But they put me straight onto the grade 3 corona ward. That's where people are at, like quite desperate. And then I think 2 days later they took me and put me into grade 2 corona ward.
okay.
And then I had my own little room, which, yeah. So then they put me in grade 2, and so since I went in, I was always on the respirator, but
Mm,
it was the mild one first, like just up your nose,
yeah,
giving me oxygen, etc. And then when they moved me, then they put me on the other one over my mouth.
yeah,
Um, and then they came back with the second set of results and said, yes, I've got COVID-19, and they're treating me for that. And then I went on the big respirator because my oxygen levels was really very, very low. I think it was at 60 something. They need to get it to 97. So
right.
I didn't understand all this language, at the time.
Yeah,
Yeah. But yeah, so then I went on this big respirator helping me to breathe. So it got to the stage where I couldn't breathe without assistance.
yeah. So you literally like needed like the artificial air to
Yeah.
help you to be able
Yeah.
to breathe so that it can regulate.
If I needed to eat, I would have to take off the thing, put the food in my mouth, and then put it back on, because just that little time, like, yeah, I'll be gasping for breath for it.
So were you able to? Were they trying to feed you normal food as well? Like, or was it that you were hungry, you needed something to eat, or were you not even thinking about food at the time?
One of my greatest trials of being in, there was quite a few things, but the main trial was the food issue, because I just couldn't. I ate their food and I just couldn't eat it after the time. So I'd stopped ordering. Like, they would come around in the mornings, offer you breakfast. I don't eat cereal, so but I tried to eat Rice Krispies. It was all right the first time. The second time, she put too much Rice Krispies or sugar or something, and then it just turned me off. And so I wasn't having breakfast, and I wouldn't order lunch or dinner. Then they started getting worried for me because I wasn't eating.
Mm.
This lady from my church, who I've adopted as mum, she then started to send me some soup each day.
Okay. Okay.
And that was like liquidized soup, like we give babies.
Mm-hmm.
And they couldn't bring it in, but they would get there and someone would take it from them and bring it up to me. And
Yeah.
the first day someone brought me some food, but it just made me vomit. Then someone else brought me some food that I didn't get until 9:30 that night, and they wouldn't warm it, so I had to eat it cold.
Wow.
And then the soup was coming, and that kind of sustained me. But they were very worried about me, and I've lost so much weight. Seriously,
I was gonna say, I'm sure this is like
my leg was
in
like
hindsight.
But I just couldn't eat their food. I just couldn't. So it. Not that I didn't want to. I just couldn't eat it. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, and it just became a trial, like for them trying to get me to eat, which I wanted to, but not theirs. So I was just trying to arrange for people to bring me.
Okay. So whilst you were in hospital, like what was going through your mind, mentally, and like how were you communicating? Because obviously you're a pastor, you always telling people to for their relationship with God to be stronger, to connect more, and to really trust God and have faith. So for you as a pastor, like what was going through your mind at that particular time during this whole period being in hospital and having to have the ventilator?
I think for the most part, I was communicating with God in my head and in my heart. I was communicating with family through text, minimal. And yeah, I had quite a few different issues going on with me. So one, I couldn't sleep at night. So I was having some kind of insomnia. So I was hallucinating during the nighttime.
Oh, wow.
And I can't even remember what the things were, but they're the weirdest hallucinations like I've ever had. I've never hallucinated. I was just having these weird hallucinations during the night because I just could not sleep. So then I asked them for sleeping tablets, which I've never taken in my life. They gave me these sleeping tablets, which helped and didn't help because it was just weird. I was just hallucinating with these things. During the day, my thoughts most of the time was just how am I going to get well and get better and get out of this hospital. But there was a time when I thought I'm going to die. And it was this was one day, like, I'm going to die. And I saw myself like I died in my head. And my funeral, there was only like 10 people there. I'm like, no, like, and so then in my head, I'm like, no, you got to do a memorial. So I'm sitting in my memorial, I'm listening to everyone. So I phoned up a friend of mine, David Sheshenya, and I asked him if he could take some notes down for me, because there was just some things I thought, it's not in place in terms of my family, in terms of the church. I just wanted to make sure that, like, these are the things that you guys sort out if I go.
Yeah.
So in my head, I was kind of like,
you're planning like the end for yourself, weren't you?
Yeah. And then he, between him and my other friend Mike White, they kind of just gave me some hope and encouragement, and I kind of snapped out of it. It was a weird one. We go out every so often and just have an afternoon together, and they just kind of reinvigorated that dream, like, we're going to go back out again. And then I got into that conversation, and that kind of took me out of that zone. And then, yeah, that was the last time I thought that way. From that point on, after that now, I was thinking about how do I get better. Problem was I just didn't have great communication. So I was in there 11 days. I probably saw a doctor maybe three of those days. So I wasn't getting communication as to, like, this is a problem, this is what we need to do. this is how we're going to do it. This is what you need to do. But God blessed me with a nurse. Her name was Vargi, but she was amazing. She was just a God gift. Like, she literally one day just fed me 2 yogurts, like just sat there and fed me. She didn't need to, but she just had the patience. And also she would just give me information saying, this is where your oxygen level's at. This is where we need to get it to. This is what you need to do to help, your body. So one of the things she suggested is you need to lie on your belly, not on your back. But you need to do this for about 16 hours. Now, that was so uncomfortable to lie on your belly with a big respirator on your face. Like,
Wow.
16 hours. Also, you got to get up and sit in the chair, get out of the bed, sit upright so that your lungs, So she was kind of saying, right, this is what we're trying to do, but this is what you can do to help, etc. So it kind of gave me something to do to assist my recovery, if you like. And yeah, she communicated with me, and I feel like she was an angel. So when this is all finished, I need to go and look for her, and hopefully in October, I'd love to just invite her down to church and give her a kind of some kind of award. Do you know what I mean? She was amazing. She was a God angel.
It's funny because I do read some reports or some people's experiences where certain nurses have literally been like a lifeline to them, and it's helped them to in terms of recovering and just giving that little bit of, like, I don't know if it's hope or something. It's like that has helped, and obviously God saw that you needed something like that, and he sent you this person, which I guess aided in kind of be like, you know what, I'm going to get through this. I'm going to get through this.
I mean, I think, like, I've never been one to complain about NHS hospitals. I just never do it. So, like, I just take my hat off and I thank God for the country we're in, because I think we could deal with a worse situation.
Yeah.
But I couldn't say that all of the nurses were brilliant. I mean, the lady that made me eat the cold food, she could have warmed the food. She just was being politically correct and just being awkward. So I ate cold food. There was another Jamaican nurse. Like, obviously I had to use a wee bottle in there, and so I called to get a new bottle and for her to take the old bottles. Like, she was like, you can use the toilet, and I'm like, I can't, I'm hooked up. Well, you can suggest to them to lengthen the cord so you can. Well, I didn't. And then she just walked out, and I was left there thinking, was she telling me off? Like, was she? I feel like she was having a go at me. Do you know what I mean?
Or are you trying to help me? Which one? Which...
I don't know. I'm sure she was trying to help me, but the way she was coming across, she made me feel like, you're so useless. You know what I mean? Lying there in that bed, calling us to come and take your bottles and get your new bottles. It's like, I just felt, I was lying there. I was like, what just happened? Like, for 1 hour, she pulled back my head. So I'm sure she meant well, but the way she
did it was like,
was not great.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like, a nurse can make a difference, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
Because the other nurse could have equally saying, we're going to try and help you to be able to go,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But it's just the way this particular nurse did it.
At what point did you then kind of like start sort of, talking to God more and thinking, okay, you know what, I'm gonna get through this. What is it more that you want me to do, and what has this experience taught you? Because it's almost, for you, it's almost like a near-death experience, the closest to death that you'll ever get. And I think that's a lot of people's experiences. So for you, what has this kind of taught you, and your relationship with God, as a pastor? Because like I said, you're always guiding others, but for you personally,
talking to God in my head through it all. I can't tell you that I was like Shandalaband, I was talking to God through it in my head. There was a stage where I'm like, God, I need to go home. I need to come out of here, because it was just becoming intolerable, the whole hospital experience, like not being able to eat, like they will give me this tablets each day, which they were so big I find hard to take, and there was just so many different things, variable things that just made me wanted. So I was like trying to bargain with God, like to get me out. So I became verbal in my prayers and those things. God, get me out of here. I need to go. I need to leave. I need to get well. You know, I need you to strengthen me. But I think through it all, I was always talking to him, communicating to him in my head about my family, about church and things like that. Yeah, and so when they took me out of that room and brought me on the ward, and I think the physiotherapist took me on a little walk from my bed, and it was literally just like walk for me to walk from here to downstairs in my house. It was a little walk, but he took me on this little walk, and it's the first time I've walked for 11 days. And he kind of gave me a little hope and said, yeah, you know, if we just get your, actually before that, they said, all right, your oxygen levels are up to 96. We think you should be able to go home in a couple of days. But then they came back and said, oh, we need to take a blood test just to see the oxygen levels in your blood. So they came back, and I don't like needles. Like, so when I go to dentists or anywhere, I shut my eyes and I let them do what they do. And it's like I've got to that place. I mean, before you couldn't even get the needle in me, but now I just shut my eyes. If I see the needle, it ain't going in me. But in this hospital, they did the blood test every day, and this particular time, they couldn't find veins. So I had a nurse on that hand, a nurse on that. I thought to myself, you know what? I'm just opening my eyes now because like this, and when they did the blood test, it came back that there was not enough oxygen in my blood.
Right.
So they said, no, you can't go home.
Oh,
so
wow.
then my hope was then dashed. But then when this guy took me on that walk, he kind of said, yeah, we're going to start preparing you to go home. And in truth, 2 days later, I was able to leave after it. And I felt like, but just the messages and the texts that I was getting, that people were praying, like, I mean, just...
It was an outpouring of prayer, you know. I think when a lot of people found out, it was just like, no, that's like, it was too close to home. I mean, you know, we pray for everybody, but then when it's so close to home, your prayer just, it ramps up another level. You're like, no, God, protect, you know. Yeah, so it was.
I'm hearing from everyone, like they've prayed like they've never prayed before. Like I really went in for you. Do you know what I mean? I'll tell you, Lady T, I'm so like, I've always loved people, but I say to people, like, coming out of this, I appreciate people even more now. Like I love people even more now, like, because I just feel like sovereignly God could just heal you, but you know, the word says he sought for a man to stand in the gap. And just to know that he found so many people across the world, I mean, from Spain, Africa, everywhere, America, Australia, people were praying, you know, South Africa, everywhere, just praying for me and sending messages. So it's just given me such an appreciation to be alive now.
What scripture did you hold on to whilst you were in there? What was there any particular scripture that you kind of like, I'm going to hold on to the scripture?
I think the one that kept coming to mind, and there's a song we sing at church, and I think we rinsed the song so much that the guy that leads our worship team don't like to sing it. But the song says, I will live, I will not die, the resurrection power of Christ. So I love that song. And there's a scripture attached to that. I think it's in the Gospels that, you know, you will live and not die and declare the glory of God. I think that passage was my foothold, last stronghold passage. And that song, I sang it quite a few times while I was there in the hospital. You know, I will live and not die and declare, you know. So yeah, those are the scriptures.
So obviously coming out of this now, and there was something that you said, because you said that, you at the point where you thought you were going to actually, you thought you were going to die, and you called your friends.
Mm.
Has this now sort of got your mind into a place where, like, I need to plan for the future or for my family, in terms of, like, because I know in, like, within the African Caribbean culture, we don't like to do wills, because wills, people think, oh, if you do a will, I'm going to die. But then it's just like, no, it's just a safeguarding for your family, and
Yeah.
for, I don't know, whatever organization that you have, or whatever business. So for you, do you think that you now consider that, or had you already done that?
I think I've always thought about it and tried to do little things to
Mm,
prepare, but I've just never really took it 100% serious and 100% and did everything. So now I think I will do everything, but it's just not my family. I've seen pastors pass, die, and their wives are just left by the wayside. Do you know
mm,
what I mean?
mm,
Um, and so obviously my wife is heavily dependent on myself, so
mm.
I do. And it's just oh my gosh, what happens to me? Like, what's going to happen with Karis? And I wouldn't want to see what's happened to her, what's happened to other pastors' wife happened to
After hers, like,
Karis.
yeah.
So that came full in my heart and mind. Um, and then two, sometimes pastors die, and then all the work that they've done just falls apart. Do you know what I mean? Like, people get power crazy, power hunger, and then internal fightings. So I just thought, I need to put stuff in place. So if something happens to me, because obviously there's never going to be another founder. I founded
Yeah.
our group of churches, so we don't need another founder. But then
Just need a
having
successor, someone to carry
a
on.
system in place that if I'm not there, it still goes on, it still flows. We're still planting churches, our churches are still becoming healthy,
Mm.
and it doesn't become like that denominational hierarchical, because we just don't have that kind of system and arc. So I just didn't want it to become something that it wasn't. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, so those kind of things, like, yeah, I'm definitely going to ensure that those things are embedded within. So if I'm not here, because over the last 3 years anyway, I've been on this thing, build away from yourself, build away from yourself. So whether I'm at the Ark or not, or preach it out Forest Gate, I'm talking, nothing changes. It still carries on now. But there was a time when it was so dependent on me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would like to know that if I'm gone, like forever, that it still goes on, it still grows on, and nothing changes.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Of course, people are going to miss you and all of that, and presence, but yeah. So yeah, I need to put some stuff in place over the next years, and
Yeah.
definitely I was working on before anyway, just bringing through our younger guys, into the fore now, not waiting. They're the leaders of the future, kind of placing them now.
Training them now.
Yeah, and
Which I
getting
think
these
is important.
millennials.
Yeah, I think you need to start training. A lot of pastors, I guess, if you see the fruits, or in certain members, and you know that what they're doing is, it's fully spirit led, and you know that God has got something on their life, you're going to want to draw that out of them, and you're going to want to train them up, so that, let's say you're not there, not even,
Yeah,
if not passed away, but just like away for like however many weeks, they can take over. They're confident, and they're able to
capable of
lead.
leading. Mm.
Yeah, to that. So, training up the leaders and whatnot. So, in as we round up, what things have you learned from this, and also, what's your message to others, whose family have kind of going through this, and what would be your word for them?
Yeah, I think one of the things I've learned, like I said earlier, I appreciate people so much more. Like, I love people, so it's not like a new revelation, but just, yeah, so thankful for the prayers of the saints. And I just never take that, our prayers, what that means. So, and two, I've learnt I appreciate being. I mean, I've come close before when I had a heart attack the first time. That was close, but just appreciating life a lot more. I think one of the things that happened when I was in hospital is like it was the communication. So something went out on Facebook that it didn't really communicate what was happening with me. It kind of said I was in hospital, but I forgot the word that was used, but it didn't really communicate where I was. What I was struggling with and suffering with. So I remember texting Rilla and saying, right, we need to put out a statement. And there was a lot of backwards and forwards and things, and people because some people were saying, oh, he's in ICU, and there was a lot of stuff on. So once we put out the statement, and then I think David put, and I got Marcia Dixon to put something out, then people were praying with knowledge. So one of the things I would encourage people is just to be, and I know it's the problem within our community, is that sometimes people, they suffer with stuff and they don't really tell people what's actually going on. So I just saying, just be transparent and open, so people know what they're praying for and can really pray with knowledge, rather than hiding or giving little half truths where people kind of got join dots up. Because generally we don't join dots, we just stuff like that. So I think that's one of the big things. I think too, in terms of retrospect, is something I said, like, love people, meet people, live good with people. Like, generally, just, I think, I think if you just love people, be nice to people, be courteous with people, then people like you. And then people like you, they'll pray for you. Do you know what I mean? And they'll feel your pain when you're going through. So I think that's a huge, if I could have been, I'm trying to be, I'm not wanting to put myself into this, but I'm just saying, if I had been a pastor that had been aloof from people, or
you probably wouldn't have gotten the much support as you would have done now.
I don't think people would have prayed for me like that. Do you know what I mean? So I think those are key things.
Yeah. Wow, Pastor Peter, I mean, I'm grateful to God that you are still here, because, you are an amazing man and you're continuing to do so much. And we just thank God for your life, and that, you are on the way to being 100%. You're nearly there, as you said, just the reality of it. But the fact that God has kept you, that's an amazing thing. So we thank God for your life, and thank you so much for sharing, your story and your journey, because I think it's so important, because, we see a lot of, we see normal people, but we don't really see people's leaders, like, pastors or someone in authority who's gone through this and who is actually willing to share their story. So the fact that you are, I think it's an amazing thing, and I think people should be encouraged to share their story and just to encourage others as well. So thank God for you and for health, and I appreciate you so much.
Bless you. And let me just close and saying, if you're watching and you were one of those people praying for me, I am so grateful for your prayers. Thank you so much. I feel indebted, and I feel like, a lot will change in the way I do ministry going forward, because I think this has been a transitional thing for me. But just to know, like, for the rest of my life that I've got here in my body, there are some things I need to do for the kingdom of God. There's churches to be planted and people loved and discipled. So I'm just going to give even more to Jesus than, this is not slowing me down. This is going to make me more productive, but slowed down in a sense in terms of how I go about that. So I'll say a big thank you to everyone. Thank you for allowing me to be on this platform with you, Lady T. And,
honestly, it's an absolute pleasure, and thank you so much. Like, I really appreciate you, and thank you. God bless you, and God continue to keep you with great health.